You know, this is hardly well-articulated sophistry that Doherty and Rubio engaged in during this Face the Nation interview. They can come across as reasonable, but in the reality, there's a lot of distortion going on here. And I think first that we need to address the argument that the host posed to Rubio. She was calling into question Vance's recent speech in Munich, which, you know, we're all well aware of at this point. Just terrible stuff. Again, being very sophistic. And maybe that's the name of the game right now with the Republican Party, is just completely running on sophistry, because that is all they've got. But she was pointing out how he was giving this speech, making the arguments that he was misrepresenting information like he was in a country that has a history of using free speech weaponized to, you know, commit a genocide. And I want to read Rubio's quote word for word so you can hear what I'm talking about. This man responded to her by saying, "Well, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct the genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated, you know, Jews and hated minorities." Funny enough, that sounds a lot like America lately on the hating part. And this is where, again, sophistry has come into play. Just Sturmer anybody. We have the whole MK book that was written back in the 20s. You have the People's Observer that they wrote in. And you have to understand they were able to get away with all of this in Weimar's Germany because they didn't have any guardrails, like, to crack down on this. This was free speech. Say what you want. Do what you want. Blah, blah, blah. This is what happens. This is why you need guardrails. And I mean, you know what the angry little man was always arguing about and yelling about in his rallies. Passing the blame on to communists and socialists, ideology related to such, blaming Jewish people for the problems of the country. It sounds a lot familiar to what we're doing to immigrants right now. He also promoted nationalism and military fervor. Totally not doing that here, right? Totally not abusing the idea of patriotism to equate those two things. Totally not. Last I checked, the little guy liked to frame himself as the savior of Germany against foreign and domestic traitors, enemies within and abroad. Totally doesn't sound like what's happening right now either, right? Just not a lick of it. No, Mr. Rubio, no, you are completely being sophistic right now. So yes, free speech has been and still is being used to weaponize and do bad things. Ethnic cleansing, for instance. Look at what we're doing to the immigrants in this country, including ones who are here legally. We've even had congressional members call for the denaturalization of American-born citizens because they didn't like their message. They didn't like what they had to say. Well, in the same breath, saying that the Democratic Party was all about censorship. But you want to deport a woman who was legally born here, like the whole shebang. You want to deport her because you don't like what she had to say. You can try to gloss over history all you want, but to outright deny the parallels is extremely disingenuous, borderline gaslighting, and sophistic. At the end of the day, denial really truly fits like a cheap suit. It's ill-tailored, it's uncomfortable, and it's obvious to everybody but the person wearing it. Like it or not, but for many tragedies in this world, free speech was often the vehicle that started the weaponization. And unless we're careful, it's going to become a battering ram by extremists in this country as well.